And yeah, this session is going to talk about telco approaches to financial services in the context of operators who may be reassessing their approach to mobile money and financial services, and then others who are flying straight ahead and embracing fintech and financial services and the opportunities that it can offer, and the partnerships that they are exploring in order to deliver a suite of services beyond payments. So yeah, without further ado, I suppose I think I should introduce or ask our panelists to introduce themselves. So perhaps maybe Ignacio, Irfan, and then Jens can introduce themselves. Ignacio, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me to this section. My name is Ignacio Eusquiano. I'm the global responsible of digital payments in Telefónica Group. And well, one of my objectives in Telefónica is just to create the best experience for our customers in digital payments.
Great, thanks, Ignacio. Irfan?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so my name is Irfan Khan. I'm CEO for Telenor Pakistan, and I'm also chair for Telenor Microfinance Bank. We run the largest mobile money service in Pakistan, which is a joint venture between Telenor and Alipay or Ant Financial. Recently, we are now graduating towards a full stack digital banking license. So about 50 million customers on telco side and about 20 million overall on the mobile money side, with 14 to 15 million monthly active on the app.
Thanks very much, Irfan. Jens, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, this is Jens from Deutsche Telekom. I'm with corporate strategy here and mainly looking into core telco topics, blockchain-related developments on our side.
Great, thanks very much. If you don't mind, I'd like to start out by maybe just probing a little bit into the sort of propositions that you offer, so it will kind of give us a picture as to where you guys are at. And Ignacio, I know Telefonica Money has been around for some time. I think when I looked at it before, they were offering loans of between 1 and 3K with Movistar Money in Spain, and that's recently gone up to 10K of loans. And I know you have a suite of other products, but can you tell me a little bit about Telefonica's mobile money journey, financial services journey?
Well, in Telefónica, we are working in different lines. One is, as you said, personal loans up to 10K euros in Spain. Also, we are working in Colombia, Brazil. We call this service Movistar Money or Vivo Money. In parallel, we are on charge of the financing services for the e-commerce. We finance the mobile phones to our customers. In other role, we are working also in InsurTech, and in my case, is digital payments. As part of the strategy of the group, we offer. We manage the transactions, the payment transactions, and in parallel, in case of the customer needs to be financed, the transaction, which we are offering with joint ventures this kind of service. The experience for the personal loans is a little bit different because we create the experience. We are the owners of the user experience of the customer. We provide some algorithms to our bank partners, and it works very, very, very fine. And we are very proud of the service in Spain and in Colombia. And we are going to roll out this service in Spain during this year in different countries like Peru and Chile.
Great. And just if you don't mind me asking as well, what's the sort of the positioning of Movistar Money? I mean, are you a challenger or what's
we are a challenger?
Yeah.
We are a challenger, and our partner is a bank. So this is the challenge inside because we need to work with a partner that provide the funds, and the partner is CaixaBank in Spain, and is one of our stakeholders in Telefónica.
Sure.
But there is a limitation in the total amount of the money. We start with 3,000. After that, 5,000, and now we are working with 10,000 euros. And it's very difficult. We need to find the space with the bank where is the playground for us, no? But it works fine. It works fine.
Yeah, I guess you're still sort of in the smaller loan segment of that market. So, but I guess if you start going any higher, the conversations start to get a bit awkward, maybe. But in terms of the customer base, are they predominantly your own telco customers that are coming to you, or would they be customers from outside Telefónica's mobile base?
We start with our own customers in Movistar in Spain, but we open the service to customers outside of the Movistar, Vodafone range, or different from different operators.
Yeah, great.
We need to provide some in order to capture these new customers. We need to create, or at least we need to introduce new technologies in order to, like open banking, in order to retrieve information of the customer before, after the loan. Yeah, no? So open banking is a new instrument for us, and this is we are working with it in order to capture information about the customers and to pass the scoring algorithms in order to provide the personal loan.
Okay, great.
Movistar customers is very easy because we know the history of the customer life cycle. We know the payments that the customer did before. It's very easy for us to know this with or not customer for a personal loan.
Okay, great. We might actually come back to that whole credit scoring and things like that afterwards. Irfan, I'm really intrigued with super apps, and so I'd love to hear a little bit about that journey you've had with Ant Financial. And I think you said in your introduction there that you have around 14 million EasyPayzy customers, or maybe I picked that up wrong, but is there a split between of the overall the cake of financial services customers? What proportion of them are using the app? Irfan, I think you're on mute there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I'm going to say that our market or our journey has been quite amazing, because when we started 12 years ago, about 70% of people were unbanked, right? So when we saw that the mobile penetration has really exploded and everyone is carrying a mobile phone, we saw this opportunity. Historically, we really pushed hard to bring people onto the app, but it took us a while. So we established ourselves quite well over-the-counter service for mobile money initially. But last few years, and especially COVID, has really helped in that transition. So in our market, still only 55% approximately people are using smartphones. Rest are on feature phones. So you have this split of customers which are using services still on USSD and IVR. But the number which I mentioned now, around 14 million, these are all smartphone users. We are telco agnostic on a mobile money service. And we see a huge difference in terms of the engagement level of people who are on app versus people who are not on app, because you can serve them better, the whole customer experience improves, and we see engagement at a very different level. So that's how we are so now building a portfolio beyond payment services. Now we are into lending, smart loans. Savings is something which we have started recently. We have already over 1 million customers, much obviously smaller ticket size, but we're creating that awareness of people that, whatever is left over in their wallets, which is not a huge amount, but they can still utilize and earn some money on that. And then we're moving more towards embedded finance, especially towards certain segments. We see SME, for example, is a huge potential opportunity or a potential segment where the availability of credit is somewhat limited in a traditional sense. And by using credit scoring, and also looking at some historic data through partnerships, we are able to actually extend them loans. So that is one of the fastest growing segment of business for us. And so does other partnerships, which is bringing in traffic, whether it's the ticketing and food ordering and some of the others. So it's all moving towards a platform play, or you can call it a super app, where there are many more use cases slowly building up. But predominantly, it all started from our mobile top-up service as the biggest use case. But now we see that split, which is a lot more diverse.
Yeah, I've seen that thing where I think the super app really relies on having a sort of a dominant position in one area, whether it be payments or whether it be messaging or ride hailing, and then branching out from that. And I guess from your perspective, it was the payments and the top up where that came from, and you expanded from there. Just interesting you said there, I think you might have mentioned COVID and transaction activity. I did see something like Vodacom had remarked that you know, the number of transactions, actually it might have been Safaricom, the number of transactions had gone from 10 per month up to 20 per month. And did you see a similar kind of uptick from COVID in terms of the number of activity, the transaction activity on the app each month? Did that rise high, you know, a lot for you?
Absolutely. Quite similar numbers in terms of the transaction happening, but also the engagement happens, you know, extremely high. So we see people who are now hooked onto the platform are using it a lot more frequently. We see a lot more, our acquisition costs going down because of the word of mouth, as well as the network effect which you're gaining. And you're right, it's at the back of the payment as the main use case. That's how we started, but also at the back of you know, the strong, I would say, brand name and the distribution reach which we have through the telco business. So it's not that easy to establish or achieve that scale, unless, I mean, as you're saying, you are already there as a platform, messaging platform or a telco platform used for payments. And that's what we are now branching out and expanding more and more use cases. And we are quite clear that we have to do it through partnerships and building that ecosystem, which is a lot more open ecosystem rather than closed. But it's quite exciting journey.
I'm sure, yeah. And I guess bringing those merchants on board is, you know, fundamental to building out that kind of lifestyle app that you want to, because it really is a two-sided ecosystem. You need the customer and you need the merchants to serve the customer, and there has to be a reason for the merchant to want to use your service. Great. Jens, I know Deutsche Telekom Group are very busy in terms of their own financial services approach. I mean, you've got some digital tariffs in Germany, and then your opcos in the USA with banking, and also in Greece. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about your financial services approach at Deutsche Telekom?
Sure. I mean, we're looking into, let's say, the topic of financial services from various angles. Let's start with the one, the use case, how to basically support users and in topic of digitalization and on online payments for our own telco services, basically for services that we offer to our users. So, I mean, in our footprints, we have multiple, let's say, countries where to some extent cash is still king, where to some extent people still doing top-ups with cash. And our idea was, hey, let's look into something to automate something, some of these functions for our users. So we have, let's say, a customer-facing, consumer-facing customer care application, right? And so we embedded some of these functionalities for online payments in those applications in our market, and that really had basically also for our users to be in a much more easier way to, let's say, to top up and to have, let's say, opportunities to pay online for the contracts, for the services. Now, yes, you mentioned also correctly, in some of our markets, we also have, let's say, more, let's say, fintech related solutions that are focusing on really payment and the topic, how can I send money to someone else, right? And specifically in the US, with our service there, we're active in these markets, but also in Greece, recently launched Payzy as an application who also, let's say, simplifies payment transactions.
Yeah, I thought the PayZ app approach was quite interesting in terms of entering into the payment space, and obviously Cosmote see an opportunity there. Although you know, I guess it depends on the market, but it can be quite a crowded area to enter as well. Especially if you've got an established banking and payment system. But it's the I think I've noticed if you can build a payments app or a payment service, and you know the customer is going to that app every day to pay for the milk or groceries or do those little transactions every day, you're building up a level of interactivity with the customer that you know operators are really struggling to do these days, because I mean in terms of you know telcos, they have a lot of difficulty getting customers to interact with them, and you know sometimes it can you know the customer may only interact when the broadband goes down or the bill arrives and you need to query it, or every 2 to 3 years when you need to buy a handset it's the only reason you go into the store. So I think from an interactivity perspective, I think those payments open up that opportunity to interact with the telco on a daily basis, and from a lifestyle perspective, I think it's the same thing, Irfan, in terms of what you guys are doing, in terms of that daily interactivity approach. But I suppose moving on, if you know, to look at operators who are maybe reassessing their role in financial services or in mobile money, is it the lesson to not be a bank, and to be something else? And what role is it that you want to play if you don't want to be a traditional bank? I mean, is that the mistake some operators make when they are developing a financial services proposition? Ignacio?
Well, our past in mobile money is very sad in the case of Telefónica. So we try in the past to establish to acquire some licenses in Hispan and in Spain for making mobile money. In the end, the customer to make money with the transactions for us was very difficult. So in the end, we didn't want to be a bank. We just want to make money with financial services in the terms from the point of view as a business. In the end, we realized that loans and finances was the path to make money for a telco in terms of volume and transactions, and not just to offer accounts, digital accounts or transactions to the customers. Yes. Payments provides a different view of the customers, provides experience, and provides also the digitalization way for our customers. The payments is in itself an experience, but not the digital account. In the case for Telefónica, for example, just in Hispan, there are strong banks that provides light accounts in a free way, and the central banks are pushing to the customer to these services, and there is no space for us as a telco there to provide a good proposal for our customers. So in the end, we finally closed the services there, and we understood that to be a bank is very complex. And to make money with a bank is very, very complex for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Irfan, I know I said is it the goal to not be a bank? Is that the lesson? I mean, is the lesson to not be a bank? But then I know you mentioned there you're getting a banking license. So, can you tell us a little bit about that whole approach that you're taking, and why you're going down the path of maybe getting a banking license as opposed to what you currently have, an e-money license, whatever?
Yeah, I think there's no general answer to this, because it depends on the regulations, right? And regulations vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. our thinking has been initially, I mean, we had no options because as Telco, we were not allowed to do mobile money. So we need to acquire a microfinance license. And that is with the brick and mortar model. So you have to have certain branches and you need to operate full-fledged microfinance, which was okay. But then there were a lot of restrictions as well. As a telco, I feel that how you can really leverage the network effect and the scale effect at the back of your telco distribution muscle and the customer base is possible. And as my colleague rightly said, I mean, the money is to be made on lending and more sophisticated products. I mean, payment is becoming frictionless as such. So it's a great starting point. And our thinking has been that if we have to do things like international remittance, which is quite unique for Pakistan because we have a lot of international workers, you need to have a full-fledged license, banking license. And in our case, it makes sense to think of a digital bank rather than a traditional bank, because that's where it resonates well with your core business, which is telco, which is all about digitization and technology and platforms. So our thinking has been that how we convert or migrate from our existing setup into full stack digital, where we can do more advanced lending, embedded finance products at the back of blockchain, international remittance, which we have started doing, which is reducing the friction, reducing the pain point, enhancing the customer experience, and disrupt the traditional model, which you can do as a technology player compared to the traditional banks. So that has been our thinking and our journey. And we feel that products in saving, investments, lending, and international remittance will be the future.
Yeah, just when you said disturbing the traditional banking way of doing things, I'm just trying to paraphrase what you said there. Is that just by being able to move quicker, being able to approve loans quicker, and what's the difference? What's your
it's a mindset. It's a different mindset, right? So I mean, you have yes, I mean, even if you have a digital bank license, you still have the compliance burden of a regulator from a central bank. But because of your training and having a different DNA, you can move quicker. You can think of a human-centric design and customer centricity, and you can design those journeys around your customers and not necessarily around your products. So I think these are some of the bigger differences which we see from a more traditional banking mindset to more technology disruptor. And there we see that we are quite well positioned at the back of our sort of the strength of which I mentioned earlier, brand and reach.
Sure. And Jens, have you any thoughts on that whole, not trying to be a traditional bank and what it is you want to achieve through a digital financial services approach?
So, I mean, there are a lot of interesting opportunities, as Irfan already mentioned, right? For example, the topic of blockchain technology, how this impacts financial transaction, the topic of, I mean, what can we do even without becoming a bank, and what's our level of playing field in there. So, for example, our industry, the telco industry, already has a very good product out there called, has a product out there with carrier billing. So carrier billing is a super interesting use case where we already enable kind of financial transactions for our users for use cases on a daily basis, whether it's, let's say, paying with their mobile phone bill for subscriptions and so on, or in app stores. So this is already there, and that's something our industry should also look into and focus into. How can I even extend basically what I'm doing with carrier billing? Because I believe there's a lot of opportunity in our markets. But also, as if I mentioned, I mean, if we now, let's say, would leapfrog some of these developments and further look into how can, for example, blockchain technology help us as an industry to really help the process of digitalization of digital payments, there I believe we have a lot of opportunity here as an industry to really assess these topics. I mean, Evan, you mentioned remittances, for sure, a super interesting use case for some countries, right? And if there are ways basically to carry out remittances over blockchain technology and to make it, let's say, much more convenient and faster for the users, but also really the convenience. If we can really enable this one, that's an interesting one, definitely to look into. And once you basically start with topics around clearing and settlement, you can also then look into, hey, how can I basically optimize not only processes, but on the digitize even processes between operators using blockchain technology. So there's a lot of opportunity in this regard.
Yeah, yeah. I know you mentioned carrier billing there, and you know, it's a service, as we say in Ireland, it's as old as the hills, been around a very long time. And I'm wondering, in terms of, you know, the GSMA has you know, they have their open API initiative and Camara initiative, and you know, does that have any impact on what can be achieved now with carrier billing? Does it enhance the carrier billing capabilities at all, or is it having any impact there from that open API perspective? Ignacio?
Yeah, really, absolutely. Carrier billing is one of the APIs included in Open Gateway project from GSA Association. Well, our approach is to offer in these open APIs the possibility to charge to the final bill of the customer, and offering this capability to the developers and hyperscalers in order to increase the business of carrier billing for telcos. And Open Gateway is just working in the standardization of these open APIs. Carrier billing from the perspective of telco is a huge opportunity for micropayments. And in the future, we see metaverse environment as an opportunity for carrier billing too. Just because we understood that the customers are going to interact in the metaverse and need to pay for digital goods in these environments. The carrier billing will be there.
Yeah. And do you see, I mean, I suppose if we started with the metaverse, we'll probably continue along that slant, but I mean, do you see, you know, much of a commerce opportunity in the metaverse? And I'll open that to everyone, but what sort of opportunities do you see there at the moment in the metaverse?
Well, from my perspective, from Telefónica perspective, there's an opportunity there. There's an opportunity because we consider that we manage the digital identity of the customers, and in combining this digital identity with the digital payments. And our approach is to collaborate with Meta and these big partners in order to create the space for our customers. We are behind. In my case, I'm behind the project providing the digital payments.
Yeah. And Jens, do you see opportunities in the metaverse for a financial services facility?
Absolutely. I mean, picking up what Ignacio was saying, really, I mean, on the metaverse, you're really dealing with digital assets on a daily basis, right? I mean, users are interacting, for example, with NFTs, with, let's say, digital assets, with art. You can, let's say, buy, sell stuff online. You can even create your own kind of land, and you even can buy land. And these are all digital assets and transactions flowing through our networks as telcos. I mean, it's like it's happening already on a daily basis, and for sure in the future, a lot of these transactions will even grow. And if we have the opportunity as an industry to help our users in a safe environment to facilitate those transactions, then I guess this is for us as an industry a very good opportunity to do so and enable this.
Yeah. I did notice in terms of the metaverse, Telefonica had an NFT marketplace of some sort. Sorry, Irfan,
we have an NFT marketplace, but I don't know the data of the transactions of that. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
It's not so big, but we are exploring the different initiatives in Telefonica in order to find the business. to find out the business. So we are working with Meta. We are working with this NFT marketplace. We are connected with an exchange in order to offer crypto payments in our channels. We are exploring different ways.
Yeah. I can imagine it would have been a lot more popular, or there was a lot more activity about a year and a half ago, and that whole NFT space is kind of
I think it's important to start to do something, because this is a new wave, and we should be ready for the new wave. The way to be ready is just to explore, to open projects, to reach agreements with partnerships. And this is the way we work in Telefónica. And there is a specific business unit in Telefónica with a chief metaverse officer that works in the same unit that I work. And they are exploring, this team is exploring these different initiatives and push the organization to this new environment. No?
Sure. Irfan, have you any thoughts on that whole metaverse? And
yeah. No, I mean, I say that the whole concept of curator-created economy is, you will see that flourishing, right? As been said here, I mean, we see a lot of opportunities between, exchangeability between virtual world and the physical world. I think telco as an industry, we're sitting on huge assets, which we have not really leveraged. You talk about open APIs environment. I mean, think about deep network APIs, your ID type of functionality, which will be extremely important in the metaverse. Career billing is something which has been mentioned here. So I think we need to really see how we can really stitch it all together. All those digital assets, leverage the assets which are quite unique to telcos. What we see is that the value has been shifted away towards the big tech, the hyperscalers. And we don't have a great track record of actually coming back with that challenge. And I think this metaverse and the whole opportunity around digital assets provide us this opportunity again.
And of course, I suppose when you're interacting in a metaverse, there's the potential for currencies and digital currencies within that metaverse. And I was just interested in understanding maybe a little bit about what your thoughts are on digital currencies and virtual wallets. I think Ignacio, Telefónica had partnered with Bit2Me.
Yes. We have a partnership with Bit2Me, and Bit2Me is going to provide us the technology for the technology and the technology for our customers are offering the digital wallets. And at the moment, we are offering digital crypto payments in some digital channels. But the idea is just in the end, our customers are going to pay in the metaverse with cryptocurrencies. And for that, we need a digital ID and a digital wallet. This is something that in order to create a business, we need to put different blocks. And this is a key block for the metaverse strategy for Telefónica.
Yeah, it's interesting in terms of even at an EU level, the work that's going on to develop a digital ID and a digital wallet, and that probably might assist the operators in terms of integrating there with that. But I did see, I think it was on tu.com, a Telefónica website, you could buy a TV or a mobile device up to $500 worth with the Bit2Me, with a virtual currency. What was the
we have a website that is called tu.com, tu.com, where we are providing the possibility to pay with cryptocurrencies. This is not the e-commerce or the official e-commerce in Movistar. We are working in the integration of the crypto payments in the Movistar e-commerce in Spain, and in parallel in the rest of the Telefónica e-commerce, because we share a payment hub, and we integrate in this payment hub a B2Me in order to provide the service in the rest of the e-commerce. But this is it's not a pilot because it's commercial, but it's a special website that we manage. We sell TVs, we experiment different opportunities, and this is the first one where we introduce the crypto payments. So.
Yeah, and because I did see, I think you could, like, what currency were you accepting as payment? Was it Bitcoin, or would it have been another virtual currency?
Bitcoin, but in general we offer different currencies, because we exchange in real time to the crypto to euros, because the treasury teams in Telefónica wants to receive the payments in euros. So the importance it's important the way that it works, because Telefónica, or at least the finance team, don't want to receive the payments in crypto, wants to receive in euros, because we consider that it's too risky at the moment to receive payments in crypto. The customer pays in crypto, in real time is exchanged to euros, and we receive the payments in euros.
Yeah. Yeah. So when they get to the checkout page, one of the many payment options is Bit2Me, and that's how they. Okay.
And in the checkout page, Bit2Me is the option, and Bit2Me is an exchange, and make the change from different cryptos to euros, and we receive the payments in euros.
Yeah, it's an interesting area. I mean, even I see Microsoft now are they are integrating a crypto wallet into the browser, and I mean, they're not the first to do it. I mean, the Brave browser has had that for quite some time. But I think what they said was interesting. They wanted to make Web3 more user-friendly and more understandable to people. And Jens, I mean, what's your thoughts on that in terms of embedding cryptocurrency wallets in browsers and cryptocurrency wallets and things like that?
I mean, honestly, at the moment, I believe this is the future, that people have choices in what kind of currency they would like to pay for a certain service. And the more easier it is, the more embedded it is. I mean, we had the term of embedded finance. I mean, to some extent, we can even say, hey, embedded crypto, something like this. We will see in the future much more often, specifically for microtransactions. You want to have, let's say, a user experience that is super close to what you're used to. Basically, it's just a click and you pay. Of course, the onboarding is still a bit complex because you need to make sure that you are compliant with regulation. But specifically what we see now, what's happening in Europe on the regulatory side, I believe this is really helping our industry basically to frame a scope on how we can reach, let's say, people in the Web3 ecosystem in a secure and reliable way.
Yeah, and you mentioned before to me in a separate conversation about programmable money. Can you just explain a little bit about that to me? Is that money having a sell-by date, or what is that exactly? What do you mean by programmable money?
So programmable money, also to some extent known as conditional money, is super interesting because you can attach certain conditions that needs to happen before you issue an automated payment. And I believe specifically for our industry, now talking on the wholesale side from a carrier point of view, that's a super interesting one, because at the moment we do have a lot of, say, financial interactions among us carriers on the wholesale side. We're trying to automate some of these things with clearing and settlement. We're working close, for example, with ClearX and with a couple of other operators on how to do this clearing and settlement purposes. And now, if you can define in a smart contract, basically, a condition that needs to be fulfilled in order to issue then the payment, that would be the next step I would see in this whole ecosystem to automate also this payment purpose. Because at the moment on the B2B side, this is a rather manual process where someone, let's say, gets a notification on email, hey, now please, let's say, a bank wire this money. But if you can automate this, that has huge efficiencies for us as an industry, and maybe also something that can be, let's say, ported then in the future, in the far future, on the B2B side.
Yeah, and you mentioned there ClearX. I know that there was a it was a roaming type solution in terms of a clearing system for roaming between operators using blockchain. And I mean, I know it was initially a proof of concept. Is that something that's active and live now that you know that's commercially used by Deutsche Telekom and partners?
So it's still in proof of concept mode for the various reasons. I mean, the whole industry is still let's say honestly learning and adapting, and that will take time. And now roaming or roaming discount agreement is something that's already out in the market. So and you already have an established, let's say, process, payment, clearing settlement system already for this one. But the learnings out of this, if you can take this, let's say, to future services, and already build future services with clearing settlement and payment rails on a blockchain, that will help us to leapfrog some, let's say, development that we have already currently ongoing, and to be much more, let's say, flexible for future services, much more interactive exchange for payment transactions, and so on. And if you then combine this really with programmable money, as the industry called it to some extent, this can really help to for us as an industry to build new services on top of those payment rails.
Sure. Irfan, I think you mentioned before some blockchain initiatives that you were working on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we also see that there are a lot of those use cases leveraging blockchain technology. So the biggest one which we have tested and using is on the remittance side. And that's international remittance. Again, as I mentioned, there are a lot of workers who are working in different countries and they want to send money back home. One of the key pain points is obviously the middleman exploiting. And these are, remember, I mean, relatively smaller ticket size. They're hard-earned monies. These are like low-end workers. So blockchain, we established the first corridor between Malaysia and Pakistan based on Ant Financial platform. And what it does is 24/7 transactions, no transaction fee involved, excellent rates. So it's a win-win actually for the consumers as well as us, because we are also bringing in efficiency, cutting the middleman out. So that's one which is already in the field. But we are also seeing how we can use it for lending purposes, because one of the biggest issues is the collateral, right? So in emerging markets, you can imagine the documentation is not all the records are digital. It's a tedious process. If you have to go to a traditional bank to apply for a loan and they ask for the property documents, which needs to be vetted, and it takes months. But just leveraging, again, blockchain technology and digitizing records, we can actually bring in a lot of innovation and possibilities and opportunities for the consumers. So that's the other area we're working on. And then more obvious ones, as mentioned, settlement, roaming, some of the revenue assurance part in the telco side of things. So there are a lot of, I would say, fairly advanced value-creating use cases in the blockchain ecosystem.
Yeah, I guess when you talked about you know, documenting or digitizing documents in the blockchain, is that the equivalent of, you know, applying for a loan and having to bring the title deeds into the bank and they leave it in their safe for the duration of the loan? You're talking about digitizing all these you know, legal documents and title deeds in a blockchain, but obviously that needs to be vetted and secure and verified. You know, it's
an initiative where we need to really, I mean, create the whole entire ecosystem around it, right? So I mean, from land registry to banks to lenders who are willing to accept it and practice it, so that you can get that scale effect. But just sheer possibility of that, and even applying that the same thinking to another interesting area, which is livestock. Again, if you talk about the rural part of the country, some of the loans are against livestock, right? And not just farm yields, but livestock. And just by using RFID technology and all that, just to see the health of the cattle, for example, and the sheer existence of the cattle and the proof of life type of concepts, you can actually improve the performance of your loans, the approval process and ratings of those loans, and trackability of it. So these are still smaller pilots which we are exploring, but as this whole ecosystem will grow, it creates quite unique opportunities.